Oh, there I am.
Yes, I can
Okay.
see you. Yeah. You're in
Okay.
Switzerland, so that's why you're up late, right?
Yeah, it's actually around, well, don't, that doesn't bother me. I'm always up late. So people should ask questions as long as they'd like. And if we have a lot of people, and it goes a long time, we've had, Q&A that goes on for an hour and a half, and it's just been a lot of fun. People have stayed on. So we'll just see how long, Alex has got a long ride back, but I'm a young guy and I'm here to answer any questions. So fire away.
That's true. So, I mean, before we get started, I just want to say that, there's lots and lots of questions that have come through while the presentation was happening. Some of them reference particular slides or particular instances where Larry was referencing something. I can't go and divine what he was talking about 30 minutes ago. So if you have a question that's related to a particular point, can you, rewrite the context and let me know what the full question is so we all understand. The first thing I want to ask that many people have asked is, and this is from Kashav and a man named John, what are your thoughts on the proposed bill in Congress to eliminate Roth conversions? Or is that, I wasn't actually aware that that was part of the bill, or at least punitive measures that are directed towards Roth accounts?
First of all, I have to point out that I've got my hands in a cast because I broke my thumb, fell carrying a sofa. So don't get nervous, it's going to come off in a couple weeks, so no big deal. But you may see me scratch myself with my cast, and don't want anybody to be concerned, or too concerned. I didn't realize that this bill, I'm not sure which bill it is, but I guess it's the $3.5 trillion bill, incorporates eliminating Roths. I think the financial industry would be very upset about that. I doubt very much that would happen. There's so much vested interest among Wall Street in Roths. Certainly the individual financial planners. Whether or not it's a great policy is a question we can discuss, but if we're talking about the probability that Roths go away, I think it's low. It's more likely.
What about one person said that they are stated that you cannot now have self-directed Roth accounts the way you have them now under the new legislation. Are you aware of that?
Self-directed in the sense that you get to invest in individual securities. I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware, but again, you got all these stockbrokers who want to help people self-direct, or they'd like to help people, give people advice about how they should invest their money, even though the individual themselves might do the actual purchasing of the shares of particular stocks or other investments. But yeah, things could happen. Things have happened. So we have to just do the best we can given where things are. And I'm kind of very interested to learn that this is on the table.
Well,
But,
I'll specify. Some people have specified. Clearly, more people know about this than us. We'll go back and we'll do some research on this. I mean, many people have said that the reconciliation bill does not propose to eliminate Roths. It proposes to eliminate backdoor Roth conversions, particularly for the wealthy. So maybe that's what people are referencing here. Yeah.
well, yeah, I could see that. A lot of wealthy people are doing conversions, and if you are wealthy, this might be the time to do it before any bill gets passed. Of course, the bill could be retrospective to this year. They could make it that way, but why would somebody who's wealthy, who's in a very high tax bracket already, so the conversion is not going to lower their tax bracket. They're not going to be able to take money out at a lower rate and pay taxes at a lower rate, but they can shield themselves against future tax hikes if Roths withdrawals continue not to be taxable. Of course, that could be changed too. They'll give up the inside buildup, the tax deferral, but with interest rates being so low, that's relatively minor these days. So the big thing would be hedging yourself against tax hikes. So a lot of, I've heard, I don't know really that many really wealthy people, but I've heard that the wealthy people are, doing a lot of conversions these days to avoid tax hikes down the road, under the supposition that the Roth exclusion from taxation of withdrawals will continue.
Right.
What's next, Alex?
Okay. Yeah, basically we can do some more research in that, and we can get back to people on that.
Yeah. But I mean, it must be the case that they're talking about precluding this for the rich, and whether that's, and that says that if you're rich, I mean, there is an advantage to doing this, I think, if you are rich. But then the question is, will they make it retroactive to this year, which they could do?
Right. And in your presentation, someone asked, are you referring to, quote, backdoor Roth conversions?
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure what backdoor refers to. Maybe somebody can text us what that term means. I've heard it, but I haven't really learned exactly how it differs from just a standard Roth conversion. I'm not quite sure what backdoor means in this context. Maybe somebody can just text us, let us know.
Okay. All right.
I mean, chat us, not text us. Right.
Yes.
Right.
So let me just find a good question here for us that's not referencing the reconciliation bill. Here's a question from Tim. When using Maxify for Roth conversions or anything else, how to best estimate or model your max age? Should you, for example, keep it at 100 or set it to an earlier age?
You should set your max age. I think if you could make it to 100, absolutely. What you really think is the absolute max, you should set it at that level. And 100 may be actually too young. It might be 110. My mom and Alex's grandma lived to 98. A lot of people are, going to have like I think we're going to have 500,000 people over 100 in 2050. So this is the fastest growing age group. So economics says you want to focus on your maximum age of life. You have to plan to your max because you might live that long. So there's no way around planning for living to your maximum age of life. You should not look at your life expectancy. You're never going to die at your life expectancy. It's a it's a number that's of no value to you, your life expectancy. It can only lead you to make a mistake. But having said that, a lot of financial planners focus on your life expectancy because it's kind of a proxy maybe for your maximum age. But anyway, what economics says that if you are quite sure that you're not going to live to your maximum age of life, which is surely the case, almost surely the case, just like people aren't going to die at their life expectancy, essentially nobody's going to live to truly to the maximum age of life. So what does economics say here? Is it really just stupid and assuming that people are going to for sure live to the maximum age of life? No. What it says is that you should, if you're not super cautious, super risk averse, what you should do is plan to spend less the older you get. So if you're, let's say, 60, then you should think about putting a Maxify under settings and assumptions, under standard of living index. Tell that index that starting maybe at age 85, you want your living standard to drop 1 or 2% a year through your maximum age. Maybe that's 100. It's very simple to set that, and that'll give the program the idea that you want to have maybe a smooth living standard and then have it gradually decline as you reach very old age. So you're taking a gamble that you'll die before your maximum age of life, taking that risk, but it's a reasonable risk, a reasonable gamble. And and that lets you spend more before age 85 and less thereafter. So I hope that's clear. Plan to live your maximum age of life, but if you're not, incredibly cautious, plan to spend less starting at some point when you get pretty old. And of course, we're going to naturally do that. We're not going to be buying, fancy clothes or fancy cars probably in our late 80s, or going on as many vacations. But of course, there's medical expenses, so you want to put those in as special expenditures. You could have out-of-pocket expenses, and there's the whole nursing home issue, home health care. So, but that's a topic for another day.
Okay, this is a question from Charles, and I think several people have asked this, but in different ways. He says, I love the ability to make different Roth conversion scenarios. I concur with you that taxes will be higher in the future. My question is, what assumptions should I change in Maxify, or just in general, to reflect a pessimistic taxation future in order to compare different conversion scenarios?
Well, I think what I've been doing is thinking about taxes being about 25% higher, both federal and state taxes. Depends on whether you're in a state that's Illinois, which is in terrible fiscal shape, or California. Well, actually, California seems to be in somewhat better shape of late. COVID somehow was good for California, or New Jersey might be in bad shape. But if maybe you're in a state like, who knows, maybe Nebraska is in good long-term fiscal shape, and you don't expect tax hikes there, but the federal tax you expect to go up at some, given how broke the country is, I think a 25% tax hike. And of course, it could come in different ways. It could be much more for the super rich than the middle class. But I think to be conservative, 25% starting in 2030 and thereafter, and where would you set this? Under settings and assumptions on the menu to the left, when you're running any profile, you'll see this menu of inputs, and the very bottom one is settings and assumptions. You click on that, you click on taxes, and then you just scroll down, you find the option to specify tax increases. You might also specify a payroll tax increase. Now, a FICA tax increase of about 30% is what the trustees report says we need to pay our promised Social Security benefits through time. That we now have a 12.4% FICA combined employer-employee Social Security FICA tax. We need it to be 17%. Well, about 16, maybe 16.4, 16.8%, close to 17%. It's right there in table 6F1 of the 2021 trustees report. Just came out, you can Google it. And that's the percentage increase in the FICA tax that I would specify to be really cautious. Now, the politicians will likely, they might just raise the FICA tax for people earning over $400,000. That's what President Biden would like to do. And there's big problems with that, because you put this high earners into like 70% marginal tax brackets. So then they're going to leave the country or stop working or try and find ways to avoid taxes and transfer labor income into capital income. They have a lot of ways to do that. So who knows for sure, but I would say the whole idea of Maxify is to be cautious, put in cautious assumptions, and being cautious about future taxes and future Social Security benefit cuts. If you're a high income person, high income household, that's advisable as well, just to be on the cautious side.
Okay, I just want to say we have probably like at least 20 people giving us a definition of a backdoor Roth IRA, but well, I think that they should probably maybe email you at kotlakoff@gmail.com, and we'll figure out the best way to understand this definition.
Just read one of them, because I'll probably figure it out real quick.
Okay. Well, I'll find one. Let's go with some other questions that people feel are
Okay.
pertinent right now.
Okay.
Here's one from Michael. Is it best to transfer equity or FI assets from an IRA to a Roth?
Equity or FI?
FI. I'm not sure what FI stands for.
Uh, let's say, well, maybe it's like bonds or something to a Roth. The well, basically, you want to once you want to hold, if you have money outside of retirement accounts, whether they're Roth or non-Roth, like you have regular assets, you want those to be in stock, and you want your bonds to be inside retirement accounts, whether it's Roth or non-Roth retirement accounts, like an IRA, a traditional IRA, or a 401k, because the stocks are being taxed at a preferential rate through the tax advantage to capital gains and to dividends. So they're already getting a tax break there. So if you have money outside of your, if you've maxed out what you can put into retirement accounts, and you have money outside retirement accounts, that's where you should put the stock. So, and you can easily do that without incurring any taxes, just by, suppose you had your regular assets in bonds and your retirement accounts in stock, just switch that around and do the opposite. Now, there might be some capital gains issues, so I don't want to just say just do it. I mean, look.
I just want to say FI refers to fixed income.
Okay, fixed income. Okay, right. That's why, I thought bonds. Okay, that's what bonds are. Bonds are fixed income. So, okay, so I think that's the answer to that question. So I think there's not an issue of, what do you hold in the Roth versus what you hold in the non-Roth retirement accounts. It's an issue of what you hold in retirement accounts versus regular assets accounts.
Okay, let's move to a different question.
If I don't hear what backdoor is, I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
Okay, we'll do one more question. While we're doing that, I'll try to find the best definition that people have sent me.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Let's but I just want to diversify some of the questions here. This is from Scott. He says, I am 77, $5 million in an IRA. Is there any circumstance where Roth conversion would have long enough to work for me? Generally, how many years does a Roth conversion need to be net positive?
Well, I mean, suppose you took, I think the answer is yes, and I think you should play around with Maxify to see whether this is going to sound like a crazy idea, and it's not. I'm sure it's not optimal. It's not exactly the optimum of all options. Okay, the best of all options, but just hypothetically, suppose you were to take your $5 million and convert it today, pay all your taxes, and put the money into a Roth, and then take money out of the Roth through time. Now you have, as far as I understand it, no taxable income. Now you have no IRMA premiums to pay, high income Medicare Part B premiums. That's what the IRMA stands for. Now you have no taxation. You may have less or zero taxation of your Social Security benefits. What I meant by no taxable income, I meant apart from your Social Security benefits. I may be missing something, but I think that's true. So you're kind of putting yourself into like a zero or very low tax bracket for the future, paying a lot of taxes now, losing deferral, which may not be optimal. So I'm not saying that what this idea is optimal. I'm just suggesting it so you can see where there might be some advantage to doing a Roth conversion, even at age 77, or a series of Roth conversions. But the program will very quickly tell you if this idea makes sense. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't played with this idea. It's a cool idea, or well, I think it's possibly a cool thing. I'm going to run it as soon as we get off the horn here, because it sounds so like maybe it could work. That's the fun thing about this program, is it's like you learn things about what's possible, how are the ways safely to make money. So it's like a puzzle, where it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but with a payoff. So that's my best answer for the moment. I hope I'm not missing something huge, which I'm not perfect. I don't know everything Maxify knows, and I may not be thinking through some issues here that other people say, well, you obviously missed that issue. Possible.
All right. Well, I'll give you a short backdoor Roth
Go ahead.
definition that's been given by a couple people here, and I think this is the most cursory overview from Bill. A backdoor Roth IRA is a way for people with high incomes to sidestep the Roth income limits. Basically, a backdoor Roth IRA boils down to some fancy administrative work. You put money in a traditional IRA, convert your contributed funds into a Roth IRA, pay some taxes, and you're done. Even though you didn't qualify to contribute to a Roth, you get to go in the back door anyway, no matter what your income. Does that make sense?
Yeah, except there are limits, to put the money into an IRA, and then first of all, thanks for everybody. I think I heard about this, read this at some point. So the term wasn't completely strange to me. I just basically forgot exactly what it meant, but I guess I didn't pay too much attention, because there are limits on how much you can put into an IRA, and they're not terribly high. I think it's maybe like $7,000. There's catch-up limits if you're above, maybe it's 55. I have this straight in the book, because I had the time, but I didn't memorize every single detail that's in the book. But if you're super wealthy, I don't think this is a big deal, in the sense that I don't think there's a whole lot of money you can put into an IRA and then backdoor convert it into a Roth, and then limit your future taxation if taxes go up, or but there's yourself. There's also the issue of you have to still be earning labor income in order for you to contribute to an IRA, as far as I know. But there are something called spousal IRA contributions. So your spouse doesn't have to be necessarily earning labor income for the spouse to also do this. So if you're married, maybe you can get up to $15,000 to do this, and there might be a little bit of money here, and the program can help you figure that out. As far as I see no reason why Maxify can't handle this, but I just don't think if you're somebody with $15 million that it's going to matter that much to your lifetime spending.
Well, how about just a basic question? What are the limits, dollar limits, to contributing to a Roth? Someone asked that.
Well, there's a limit. Okay, so this is my recall. And again, I had to spend about 2 months getting this right in the book. And I double checked with people. I went back, rewrote it many times. I think it's 100% correct. That's in the book. So that's ultimately my source. But here's my recollection, okay? My recollection is that you're combined, and figuring these rules out is not simple, because the IRS lingo, you go to their website, it's very tricky. And then there's links about links and links. So my understanding is that there is a combined IRA limit in the sense that what you put into your Roth plus what you put into your non-Roth IRA, you add those two things up, and then there's a limit, and it's around 7K. It changes every year, and it's a little bit higher, as far as I know, for people over, I think it's 55. It's a catch-up provision for older people. But there's also income-related limits on Roths. So if your income is too high, the amount that you can put into a Roth, it's zero, as far as I recall correctly. And then there's also limits to how much you can put into employer-defined contribution plans, like a 401k plan, how much you can contribute. There's like a $19,000 limit, and then how much the employer can contribute. I think overall it's about $52,000, the exact number. So these limits are a little bit, strange. There's a you may be able to contribute to a traditional IRA when you can't contribute to a Roth because your income's too high, for example. And if you've got multiple jobs, the contributions you're making and your employer are making to the combination of the contributions are going to be subject to a limit. It's not like there's that you can put $19,000 into this 401k and $19,000 into that 401k. As far as I know, and as far as I wrote, that's not kosher. That's not allowed. And you can't have your employer put in $30,000 here and $30,000 here and $30,000 there. No. Now, there may be, I didn't really get into defined benefit plan contributions, or how high you can set the defined benefit plan. But there's also regulations on that, because defined benefit plans are pretty much a thing of the past. Not too many employers are offering those these days. Anyway, let's go to the next question. I hope that was of some value.
Sure. Let's maybe diversify a little bit more here. Someone asked, what do we mean by discretionary spending? I know that comes up all the time, every time we do these webinars. Can you give a very basic definition of that?
Yeah, so discretionary spending, let's do it this way. You start out with your lifetime resources. They're your net wealth, let's say your regular assets, like money in your checking account is a regular asset. You add in your human wealth, which is the present value of all your future labor income. And then you're going to have withdrawals from your retirement accounts. They have a certain present value. And all that's pre-tax, okay? And then you subtract off the present value of all the taxes you're going to have to pay to all sources, FICA, the state of Kansas, the federal government. And then you subtract off your Medicare Part B premiums, which are just a tax with a different name. Then you subtract off your housing expenses, because you really have to pay those, right? And then we let you put in special expenses that you're also going to subtract off the present value of those, like tuition for your children. If these are expenses, you're absolutely going to have to, you've committed to sending your kid to Brown University at $80,000 a year for, even though going to Brown is not going to be meaningfully, it's going to make, have your kid have maybe a nicer time than going to Wake Forest, but in terms of lifetime earnings, it's probably not going to make a bit of a difference to lifetime earnings from studies that economists have done. Anyway, you start with your resources, net wealth, regular asset net wealth, your withdrawals from your retirement accounts, your human wealth. You subtract off the taxes, the Medicare premiums, the housing costs, the housing expenses and present value, the special expenses that you have, maybe it's alimony payments. What's left is your spending money, the money you get to spend on food and drink and entertainment and clothes and vacations. This is your spending money. This is what's supposed to make you happy. That's what you get to live on. Apart from, that's really determining your living standard. And Maxify is trying to not just figure out the total present value of that, how much you get to spend over your lifetime, but also how to spend it smoothly, subject to you're not going into debt. So that's why the program is trying to smooth your living standard, but ensure that you don't go into debt or go further into debt. And by the way, when I talk about your net wealth, I mean net of any liabilities. A special expense could be paying off a student loan, for example. That's a liability. So you'd want to enter your liabilities, the loans that you owe, as special expenses. That's the easy way the correct way to enter them. And and obviously your student loans are going to come in as special expenses quite naturally. So this is what economics says. You want to smooth your living standard, and clearly your services from your home are being smooth because every year you sit in your apartment or your condo or your house or your apartment that you're renting, you're getting the same housing services. So that stream of consumption is smooth, and we're trying to smooth the rest of your consumption. And that's exactly what economics says. This is just quite natural. If we had, suppose you had all the steaks that suppose you're a meat lover and you love steaks, okay? Alex loves lamb chops, okay? Suppose I gave him all the lamb chops he's going to eat over the rest of his life, which is maybe 1,000 lamb chops. And I took them out of the freezer, defrosted them, cooked them up, and said, Alex, eat away, okay? He'd say, after like the 20th lamb chop, he'd say, he really likes lamb chops. He'd say, can we refreeze these? Can we save some for tomorrow? Can we, because I don't want to have no lamb chops in the future. I'm satiated. I'm now getting sick of lamb chops. This is our physiology, that we get satiated. And economists took that aspect of human physiology, of human biology, and put that into our economic models about how we want to spend. And we want to, because we get satiated, economists came up with a formulation that says that people want to spend smoothly. They don't want to spend all their money right now and starve when they're older, and they don't want to party when they're 90, when they might be dead, and starve today. They want to have a smooth ride. And this is why we save for retirement. Why else would we save? We don't want to be starving in retirement. We don't want to be eating, Friskies cat food, which is my cat's favorite, frankly. But for whatever reason, he doesn't like all the expensive brands. But it doesn't smell so good. So this is why, this is just basic economics that goes back to work by Irving Fisher, the most important and famous economist of the early 1900s, Yale University, came up with a theory of life cycle theory of saving, and said, look, what do people want to do? What are we seeing them doing? They're just like squirrels. They put away money for their retirement. Squirrels put away acorns for the winter. And so I'm going to write down the economics of that problem. And Maxify is basically doing Irving Fisher economics. And we've had lots of Nobel Prizes awarded for work in finance about the economics of consumption smoothing. And consumption smoothing, and I want to make clear the theory of consumption smoothing, this idea of not having, of smoothing your living standard over time. It also applies to smoothing your living standard over times, bad times and good times. Bad times is when the stock market fails. And that's why you want to diversify. So you have some acorns when the stock market tanks. And this is also why you want to buy homeowners and all kinds of insurance, because when your house burns down, you want to have some acorn. You want to have the ability to have housing. So the economics of Fisher, of life cycle consumption smoothing, underlies everything in finance, everything in the economics of insurance, everything in the economics of saving and consumption. It's why there's been, probably 7 prizes, Nobel Prizes awarded in economics to people who work in finance, including one to Robert Merton, who's like the god of finance. Bob Merton is a professor of finance at MIT, and he basically wrote the Bible on life cycle economics in his work. He's also got the Nobel Prize for figuring out the option pricing formula, what's called the Black-Scholes option pricing formula. And Bob Merton is an enormous fan of Maxify Planner, and he's asked me to give it to all his relatives, and I think that's about the best endorsement our software could get, to get Bob Merton. And Bob Merton has been called by Paul Samuelson, the former Nobel Prize winner, probably the top economist maybe of all time, or maybe the second or third top economist of all time, maybe the fourth top, depending on your list. But Paul Samuelson described Robert Merton as the Isaac Newton of finance, the Isaac Newton of finance. So anyway, just bragging a little bit about the fact that Merton likes our software very much.
Okay, I think we should maybe go, let's see, it's 3:30 now. Should we go for another 15 minutes? How do you feel about that?
How many people do we have left on that?
We have about 780 people left right now.
Up to you. I could go a half an hour if you want, or whatever you like, Alex. What do you think?
Yeah. Let's go for another 20 minutes, and if we can keep our answers a little shorter, that would be great. Just a little bit more succinct.
Alex, when you're dealing with your son, you got you have to. It's a little more interesting. You got to listen.
Yeah.
And so we'll keep it short, Alex.
True. Okay. So here's a question. Someone asked, Maxify does not allow the entry of after-tax money as an asset. It allows Roth, traditional IRA, or cash. How do I model Roth conversions when I have accounts with Roth money, after-tax money, non-Roth money, and tax-deferred money? All must be taken into account when calculating conversions.
So you're talking about like a non-tax deductible IRA, I believe. So
I believe, yeah.
I believe that's what we mean by that question. So we're in the process of we plead guilty that Maxify doesn't yet handle non-deductible IRAs, where you can still put money into the IRA, but you don't get a tax break when you put the money in, but the return on the money that's put into the non-deductible IRA is not taxable on the way out when the money comes out. And some people have those. And what we're in the process of adding those type accounts to Maxify. We're also in the process of giving users much more control over how they deal with each of their different retirement accounts, so that if they want to withdraw this particular account starting at this date and ending at this date, we're going to give them that control. So we're going to move from global controls to local controls of retirement accounts, but we're going to leave people the option to do global controls, because if you have 30 different retirement accounts, which people could have, it could be a real pain to try and specify what I'm going to do with each account. Rather, be better to say I'm going to take all the Roth accounts and treat them this way, withdraw from the non-Roth money this way. So those global controls we're going to maintain, and we're working on that at the margin. The company is doing, well, thanks to you folks. I'm not keeping this short, Alex, am I? But I just want to say thank you to everybody for providing word of mouth about the company, about the software. And because of that, our sales have increased through time, and we're able to hire additional engineers, and we're able to, we're now working on some really cool additions to Maxify, one of which I just described. And we're doing it in real time. So it should be, certainly, I think by March, we're going to have some really cool new things coming out in our software. It's going to make it even better.
Okay, I'm going to ask this from Bruce, and I apologize if this is redundant. He
Yep.
says, is it better to use Roth money or traditional IRA money to help delay taking Social Security benefits?
Well, if you're delaying taking Social Security, you're probably um, retired or pretty close to retirement. So you're probably getting close to being in a low tax bracket. So they're doing, taking withdrawals from your uh, tax deferred accounts rather than your Roth money, Roth accounts makes more sense just off the bat. Uh, but especially since you're not going to kick up your Social Security benefit taxation. I mean, I would certainly try everything every way because there's no way that I can, because of the complexity and nonlinearity of all these things that are under the hood in Maxify, there's no way that I can know for sure what's best for any one person. So it's just a matter of spending a little bit of time with the program, and you'll quickly hone in on what looks optimal, and also look at that path of living standard, making sure it's not too cash constrained. But I would basically say the answer would be you want to withdraw not from the Roth money, given the circumstances that you described, but rather from the taxable on withdrawal tax deferred accounts. You want to take that money out first, and probably take out the Roth money. Now the software does optimize. You can run the maximization report, and will help you figure out what's optimal, because it's going to be looking at when should you start your smooth withdrawals, when should you, how should you deal with Social Security, should you take the Roth money first or second? All these things are being considered. So that's going to quickly give you a handle, and then you can convert your base plan if you want to the maximized plan, and then you can manually start optimizing beyond that. So because the maximization report doesn't fully optimize over everything, that would take forever. So we're trying to get like a, pretty close to the best, but we're not going to find the very, very best. You'll have to do that on your own. What's next, Alex?
This is a question that I think that several people have been referencing.
Dads have to listen, but they don't listen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is from David. Given the 2-year IRMA look back, does it make sense not to do Roth conversions to minimize earnings for the IRMA calculation?
Yeah, it could. It could be that if you're taking, let's say you're 67 and you're thinking about doing a Roth conversion, and you you're retired, you're taking Medicare and you're paying Part B premiums, and you're below, the IRMA's got a bunch of thresholds, and if you pass the threshold by even $1, it's not like your Medicare premiums goes up by some portion of a dollar. It can go up by $1,000 just by earning that extra dollar or even an extra penny. So as soon as you cross that threshold, it's like nothing else in the tax code, in the tax system. It's highly nonlinear, highly discontinuous, as we would say in mathematics here, function. It might behoove you not to do a conversion because of the impact on your Medicare Part B premiums, but you can very quickly see that. You run the program, you try it, set it up as a separate profile, you run it, then you look at your lifetime budget. Hey, what happened? Did my lifetime spending go up? Maybe it went down, and then you go and look at your lifetime Medicare premiums. Maybe they went up, and now right away hey, this kicked up my my Medicare premiums over the rest of my life, and it wasn't a smart move. So then that's not the way to go. And then you figure out something else. Maybe it's moved to Arizona where there's no income tax. Maybe it's downsize the home. Maybe it's I mean, there's lots of things that beyond Roth conversions that you can think about. Maybe I should start taking out more money. You can specify special withdrawals from your retirement accounts, both your Roth and your non-Roth, to try and figure out when it's best to, maybe you don't want to take out, maybe it's best not to take out money smoothly, but rather in discrete chunks, not smoothly, in order to lower your lifetime taxes. But if you take out too much money in any given year because you're in a low, otherwise being a low tax bracket, you can kick yourself up into a high tax bracket. You can also then, do damage to Social Security benefit taxation. So you got to be looking at all this stuff and be aware of it. And that's what, but you can do it, and it's kind of fun. So have fun. I mean, that's what we made a game, a money game. What's next, Alex?
Yeah, I'm just trying to go with some general questions here. This is from Mahi. He says, can you elaborate on, quote, employer 401k contributions that are income and FICA tax deductible? What does that mean exactly?
So my understanding is if the employer contributions go right into your, let's say your 401k, and they're not subject to any FICA taxation or income taxation. But if you put it in, and maybe somebody will correct me, and I may have this wrong, but if you put, I might even have it wrong in the book, but if you put money, the same amount of money into a IRA, let's suppose you're self-employed, but you haven't set up a employer-based retirement account, and you put the same amount of money into an IRA, I believe it's deductible from federal and state income taxes, but not from FICA taxes. And of course, if it's Roth, there's no deductions. But if we're talking about a traditional IRA contribution, I believe that your contribution is deductible from the federal income tax, from your state income tax, but not exempt from FICA taxation. I think the entire thing is subject to FICA taxation. And again, I may have that wrong, but I think I got that right. If anybody thinks knows for sure that I'm wrong, chat up Alex right away.
No, actually send me an email or send Larry an email at kotlikoff@gmail.com. And we can, yeah, because, no one really knows. We have to do our own research too to verify everything. But let's move on to the next question. This is from Rob. He says, for those of us retirees not yet eligible for Medicare, how does the ACA premium tax impact the Roth conversion math?
Well, let's say you're 60, maybe you're 60, okay, and you're on an ACA, which is Affordable Care Act plan. That's an Obamacare plan. And as you have more income, it's a very good question. As you have more income, your subsidy to the Affordable Care Act plan that you're in is going to be reduced. And also there's a subsidy to out-of-pocket payments. So there's, as far as I understand, two types of Obamacare subsidies. And I believe that if you do a Roth conversion, that withdrawal that's going to be now subject to taxation is going to be counted in figuring out how large your Obamacare subsidy should be, and it could very well reduce your Obamacare subsidy. So absolutely, I think that's I think, well, I can't say absolutely, I think, so I'll just say I think that's exactly on target, that the Roth conversions can kick up your Obamacare subsidies. So that's something you need to worry about and think about twice over before you do the conversion, just like it can kick up Medicare Part B premiums.
Right. Here's another IRMA question. This is from Sarah. Is the IRMA calculation redone every year, or is it a one-time thing when you start Medicare?
Oh, it's redone every year. So,
Okay.
and that's why taking money out at the end and if you have money in the Roth, you get money to a Roth somehow, you take it out, it might be that in those years that you're taking out the money, you're in a very low tax bracket, and your modified adjusted gross income is very low. So your Social Security benefit taxation and your Medicare Part B premiums could be quite low all of a sudden. The year before you started taking out the Roth money, they were very high. Now they go to very low, and that can happen. Maxify will show that, and you start asking yourself the question: why is Maxify? If I do this conversion, it kicks up my taxes a lot here in the current year. How do my lifetime tax? Because I can look at annual taxes, doing the conversion, not doing the conversion. I see my annual taxes go up a lot, but somehow my lifetime taxes go down, and my lifetime Medicare premiums go down. And you ask yourself, where's it coming from? And then you kind of see, well, they really start going down way at the end of life. And that's due to this factor that you can actually, lower this additional Social Security benefit taxation and, just taxation in general. When you take the stuff out from a Roth, it's not going to be taxable, and it's not going to impact your Medicare premiums. So, it's a really complicated thing going on, and if you start seeing that kind of outcome, it's probably coming from there. Just like I've run a lot of cases in preparation for this webinar and writing the book, and I've kind of learned a bunch of things that I didn't really, fully understand before. So Maxify has taught me a lot of things in the last few months, last year or so.
Okay, we have about 630 people. Let's go to the end of the hour here.
Okay.
I just want to, here's a comment from Mike. He says, please remind people that they will have to pay tax on any money converted from a traditional IRA to a Roth in the year it's converted, and it may be a very high tax bracket depending on the amount converted.
Yeah, let me just restate just what Mike said. When you do a conversion, the money that comes out of your traditional IRA is going to be subject to taxation in the year that they make the withdrawal. Then you can put it back into the IRA, into the Roth, and but there's going to be extra taxes, and you might be short of cash to pay those extra taxes. So you might want to actually withdraw more and do a Roth conversion, but then take out even more money from your traditional IRA to help you pay your taxes and not be so cash constrained. But absolutely, as Mike's saying, you're going to be paying taxes when you do the conversion. And just like you're going to be paying more taxes if you start your withdrawal early and you don't do any conversion, you don't put anything to a Roth, you just start taking money out of your IRA 3 years earlier than you'd otherwise do, taxes are going to be due. But of course, if you pay taxes now, there's going to be less taxes in the future. So this may still be advantageous. You could be in a low tax bracket now, and you take money out. Now, if you take out too much money, you might kick yourself into a high tax bracket again. And so therefore, the tax advantage might not be that great. It might be even essentially zero. And there's also a very wide tax bracket under the 2017 tax reform, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act reform. They changed the tax brackets, they lowered tax rates, and they also increased the range of tax, so there's a very long range of income, a very significant range of income under which the federal tax brackets around 22 to 25%. And so you can kind of quickly go from a low tax bracket to this level of a tax bracket, 22 to 25%, and be there for a long way. So you got to be really careful how much you convert. As Mike's kind of implying, If you convert too much, it can hurt you. If you convert, so you want to find the sweet spot, and it's going to be different for everybody. If there, there's no.
And on the sweet spot, some people are saying there's a 2021 loophole for those who were on unemployment. Are you aware of that?
Well, there's yeah, I guess I'm not aware of, I think there was a loophole about being able to convert or withdraw before 59 and a half connected with COVID without a penalty. But I didn't know about an unemployment loophole, so I'm not quite sure what that's referencing.
Well, maybe Jim, who asked that, he says you can convert a 401 pre-tax to a Roth 401k and have no impact if you were unemployed in 2021. So I don't know if
you can convert a what? Just read that again.
He says you can convert a 401 pre-tax to a Roth 401k and have no impact. He said check it out. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll check it out.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe. I mean, what we're talking about is saying that you can withdraw from a 401k, maybe millions of dollars. You're unemployed. Maybe your spouse is not unemployed. She might be making, or you might be making $20 million. You can take millions of dollars out of a 401k, put it into a Roth, and not pay taxes. Don't believe that's true, but we'll check it out.
We'll check it out. Let's move on to some other quick questions here. Kathy says, does Maxify take account of RMDs?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But there's only RMDs on tax deferred accounts, not on Roth money. So there's no requirement to take Roth money out. And Maxify knows that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's a question from, oh, sorry, let me just
say it another way. I mean, hang on, Alex. If you tell Maxify you want to start taking your money out at 80, your retirement, and let's say you have tax deferred money, it'll start taking money out at 72 based on the RMDs. It won't, take out everything. It'll take out as much as it has to for you to meet the RMDs, but it won't give you the option of not obeying the RMDs. It's going to force you to live by the RMDs. But if you're talking about taking Roth money starting at 80, no problem. There's no RMDs going to be charged.
Right. Okay. I just want to get to Ralph's question here. He says, suppose I do a Roth conversion now. Do I need to pay taxes immediately or the next April 15th? Also, can I use the money converted to pay the taxes, or do I need another source?
If you take money out now, your taxes aren't really due until April 15th, but you owe, I'm sure you're going to owe estimated taxes. It's just like having self-employment income. I may have this wrong, but I'm almost positive I don't, that you should be paying estimated taxes. You don't want to wait till April 15th because the IRS says it's looking for quarterly payments of estimated taxes. If you know that you're going to have a high tax bill over the course of the year and you think you can wait till the very end of the year to pay that, you're kidding yourself. You need to be paying taxes along the way. So I would check with your accountant on that, but I'm almost sure you should be paying estimated taxes and mailing in a payment to the IRS with a special form that the IRS has. Is there another part to that question I missed, Alex?
Sorry, I was moving on.
All right, well,
yeah, he said, can you use the money converted to pay the taxes, or does he need another source?
Oh, you can use the money. A dollar is a dollar. You can use whatever money you have after you convert. You convert you got the money in your bank account, use that to pay the tax, or use some of it to pay the taxes. Use checking account money. You can take money out of your Roth to help pay your taxes. A dollar is a dollar. The IRS doesn't care where it's coming from.
Right.
Okay.
Some people have asked about, can Maxify be used to optimize Roth conversions if the goal is to maxify family wealth over the current and next generation? In other words, in terms of inheritance.
Well, I would say yes and no. I mean, you could specify gifts to children. For example, you could put in a special expense, which is a gift at some point, like when you're age 98, in the program, and then think about using Roth conversions to lower your lifetime taxes so that you get more spending. And if you get spending up enough, you might want to raise your gift, which will lower your spending back down. So yes, I would say you can use the program to think about how much you can give to your kids, such as not cutting into your own spending. Now, one of my goals with Maxify, which I think we'll probably actually achieve in about a year's time, is to add federal estate taxation, and there's a federal gift and estate tax, and then also state estate taxation, which can be very significant and can start, like in Massachusetts, if you have an estate that's above $1 million, you have to pay taxes. So I want our program to be able to show people, if they don't spend all their money, for example, if they put money into a reserve fund, the reserve fund to Maxify isn't spent. It's not used to increase your lifetime. If you take money from Max, if you tell you tell Maxify you're going to put money into your reserve fund through time, well, the program will know not to use that for discretionary spending. It'll know to leave that as part of the estate when the last person dies. So I want to be able to show users what their heirs will be getting after estate taxes, not just federal, but the state estate tax. The federal estate tax is quite high, and for most people, they're not going to be hit by it. But the state estate taxes can be pretty nasty in certain states, and I want to include those in the program. But in general, the answer to the question is yes. And the other part of the answer is that we're going to be doing an even better job on delivering that yes answer to you through time.
Right. Okay, so we have about 3 minutes here. I want to
How many
this
people do
question.
we have left?
We have 550 loyal people on here that have stuck it out.
Okay, cool. That's great.
And we're very thankful that everyone's on here.
My email is kotlikov@gmail.com. We have, we have a great support team. You can put in support tickets for Maxify, or if you're using Maximize My Social Security, or Analyze My Divorce Settlement if you're getting divorced. We have great support, and also Alex's email he gave you, Alex at alexander.kotlikov@economicsecurityplanning.com. So we're here to help you, and also you can purchase an expert review of Maxify, of your use of Maxify. You can buy that online, and you'll get expert help, and or Maximize My Social Security if you're just focused on that and using that program. So if you don't get all your questions answered, we'll answer them. Just bug us and we'll get back to you. Okay.
I think that makes sense. So are we good closing out now, I think? It has been
Why don't
2 hours, I guess.
we go for
Should we
one
do
more
one more
question?
question?
Okay,
Yeah,
got
let's
one
do
more.
one more question.
Okay.
This is a long, good one. Or it's more of a comment, but I think you can answer it. It's from Julia. She says, the idea of smoothing one's living standard over one's lifetime is reasonable, but the idea of smoothing one's consumption seems impractical. This is because as one ages, one's cost of living tends to increase very rapidly, especially if one lives into the late 90s and requires assisted living and nursing home care, which cost about $110,000 per year at a good nursing home. Please comment on how to best include the large increase in the cost of living if one fortunately or unfortunately lives to an advanced age.
Okay, so I would treat your nursing home costs, your home health care costs, even in a nursing home, you may need special aids. I would set up a profile which is called, long-term care. And I would think about kind of a bad case scenario. I might have to enter a nursing home or an assisted living facility starting when I'm age 85. And in some of these contexts, you can go on to Medicaid if you're middle income or low income, use some money to get into a nice facility, and then you'll pay privately for a couple of years, and then they'll convert you onto the state payment. But you may need money for out of pocket expenses, including aids. We went through this with my mom. In that case, it wasn't Medicaid, but we did have to pay for a full-time aide as she got older. So these are special expenses, and it's going to lower your discretionary spending. So the program can fully incorporate your concern here. So you got your base case, now you've got your long-term care profile, and then you've got a third profile I want you to set up, which would be long-term care plus a long-term care insurance, where you think about buying long-term care insurance, where you treat the the premium payments you're going to have to make through time as special expenses, and then you put in a smaller special expenses for the treatment for the long-term care, because some of it will be covered by the insurance. So now you have three situations, and you can gamble and assume you're not going to need the long-term care. Or you could say, well, I really want to make sure that I'm covered for the long-term care. And then you've got case A and B, where you can kind of think about self-insuring versus buying insurance and seeing whether this pays off. But you got to be very careful with these insurance companies, because they may promise things they may not actually, the small print, they may say they're going to provide X, and then when push comes to shove, they may not actually do it. We kind of had some insurance for my mom, and it wasn't so easy dealing with the insurance company. But to tell you the truth, I was happy we had the insurance. On balance, it was better than not. And we needed some home health care aid insurance. That's what we had before she went into an assisted living facility. She lived till 98. So there's that. But then the other really important thing I want you to think about with respect to insurance, long-term care insurance, is inflation. If these policies are not inflation indexed, and I mean really inflation, adjusting for inflation, not rated, they might be set up where they'll pay you X this year, next year they'll pay you more if you're in a nursing home, the following year they'll pay you, and it's going to be like a smooth path that rises with time. That's not really inflation protection, because inflation could be 20%, and having something go up 2% a year for sure every year is not going to protect you if inflation is 20%. So if you're dealing with a policy, which I'm sure most of these, I don't know of any insurance policy that's really truly inflation protected, you have to be worried that that policy is not going to really protect you. It may protect you pretty well against long-term care, but it may not protect you against a combination of the need for long-term care and inflation. So it may not be worth it, or maybe too risky to go for that policy. Now, just one last comment on that, just because I'm a professor of economics and I have to say everything I know because that's just in my blood. Okay, this is why I'm so long-winded. If you, one good way to hedge against inflation is having a mortgage. In general, I'm not a fan of mortgages. In general, I'm not a fan of anything that's, forcing you to pay for sure an interest rate that's above the rate you can safely earn, because there's a clear arbitrage opportunity there. We already talked about earlier today. But if you have a mortgage, you've got payments that are nominal that are going to get watered down by inflation. So it's a natural hedge against inflation. So imagine that you had a house that's free and clear. You took out a mortgage in order to buy, and then you bought a long-term care policy, and you put the proceeds from the mortgage into inflation index bonds, which were protected against inflation. So now you have kind of a hedge. If you need to go into the nursing home and you're going to lose money on the policy because of inflation, you're going to make money because of on the mortgage, because your repayment will be watered down, just like your insurance payments will get watered down. So you'll have one thing will protect the other. That's what we mean by a hedge. So I don't want to be too negative on things that are exposed to inflation, because there is a way through mortgages to give yourself some protection against inflation. That's what I'm trying to convey here. And there is a case study or an article on our website where I talked about with one of our customers, one of you folks, thought about buying a nominal annuity and at the same time taking on a bigger mortgage in order to make that nominal annuity safe against inflation. So he in effect rolled his own inflation indexed annuity by combining a nominal annuity with a mortgage. And that's a pretty cool thing, and it was all done within Maxify. So let me, that's a very long-winded answer to a very important question. And but it does show you the capacity of Maxify to really address all these different issues that we're all faced with, including inflation risk. You can run the program with one inflation, set up a profile, run it with a higher inflation rate. See the risk that you're facing from inflation. Okay, so I'll stop there because Alex is texting me, I'm sure, telling me, Dad, give it a break.
That's true.
Yeah.
We will close. I do want to say one thing. I want to make a quick plug here, though, because I noticed Rick Fine is one of our attendees today, and he'd like me to let everyone know who's attending that, Rick Fine is Rick Miller's colleague at Sensible Financial. They're one of the few and best financial planning companies out there that will make a financial plan for you using Maxify, which is pretty cool. So just wanted to put that out there.
We do have, let me just say more broadly, we have a list of financial planners. If you click for financial planners or for professionals, you'll see a list on our website, the homepage. You'll see a list of all the financial planners that are using Maxify Planner. And if you have a financial planner who's not using it, tell them, look, love to work with you, but you got to use the software because it's the best in the world. And I say that quite honestly. Any financial planner who's not using our software, I don't think is doing right by you. So you can certainly find a financial planner, and Sensible Financial Planning that's run by Rick Miller is one of the best financial planning companies around, and they've been using our software for decades now, since we really started out, and they're terrific. But there's other terrific financial planners using our software, and they're growing. The list is growing all the time. So if you feel like you'd like to have not do it yourself and have help with a financial planner using our software, find somebody on our list, go with Sensible Financial, or get your financial planner to adopt our software. We have the least expensive and the best software out there for financial planners. And I say that obviously that's self-interested, but it's also 100% true. Okay, so I'm saying in a very serious way, not to try and make money, but
and I want to, yeah, I should mention our website is maxifyplanner.com, just in case people don't know that. So, yeah,
great.
put that up there. Yeah.
Okay,
well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been cool, and we'll keep at this and come up with another fun webinar in a month or so, and keep interacting with you guys. Okay, and everybody
All right,
stay safe from COVID and be careful and get vaccinated. Okay, thank you.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.